Welcome back, everybody. We say it twice because we're twice as far from where our last casters used to be. Distance, of course, relatively unknown. All you need to know is we've gone a little bit upside down because it's the duo from Down Under once again bringing you our next two games here of some English LGL commentary. And I have to admit, I'm kind of riding a bit of a high after that last game we saw. If you can excuse us for a moment, I think Midnight more so. It's time to show off a little bit of that national pride.
Let's go! After the Hawks and V3. But we will see the Hawks later formal. But our next game is going to be Detention FocusMe, who had an interesting showing up against V3 earlier today. Are going to have their second game up against Sengoku, who has been struggling quite a bit in this half of the split here. They're currently 1-5 on the standings, and depending on who you ask, well, trying to say it this way, formal. Where do you think they are in terms of how they match up against the other teams of the 1-5 ilk?
It's going to be a roughie for them, I think. But I do feel they might be one of the stronger, I suppose, lower seeded teams. The one team that they might be looking to go a bit more on par with is the team that actually won earlier today, and that's not a good sign for them. Of course, we'll get more into that later in the day. However, if there's one thing that I've learned about watching the LJL is there is that sense of unpredictability, but I still want to see if Sengoku can actually beat a real team first before I really start to place them somewhere, and who knows, maybe pulling off that upset here today could do that.
Yeah, but they are going up against Detention FocusMe. And this team that's had, I wouldn't say a conventional start to the summer split here. They had a very interesting showing in week number 1. And then they finally started to bounce back in and find their stride, right? We saw some interesting picks coming in earlier throughout the course of the day. I think it's fair to say that Steel is having a little bit of fun coming into the games. And I wonder, against a team like Sengoku, I feel like Steel could just, again, look at that certain clown and think to himself, yeah, I'm feeling it today again.
That's assuming it doesn't get banned, which it's getting to that stage right now where you actually have to consider throwing down that Shaco ban when dealing with Steel. And however, I still am not looking at Steel as the reason why we're slowly seeing DFN sort of return back to form. My eyes kind of wander more towards that bot lane and the turn of Gang and how he's been able to help influence the map, and they're slowly getting that vision control back and that objective control back. We saw it particularly a fair bit more last week against the Hawks, where they were the more proactive team of like two snails sort of racing towards that first dragon. I think it was like 13 minutes in before it was even taken. But still, when you saw them play earlier today, they were obviously faster than that. And it's a slow process for them right now, but they are getting back to that full strength. And what's scary to me is when they're only still at about like 3/4 of their power, they're already starting to look like, once again, one of the best teams in the region.
Yeah, and speaking of taking a look at that roster of Detention FocusMe, and I think we've talked about it time and time again, the bottom lane is very interesting. Unicorn and Gang have been working quite well to sort of integrate Gang back into the team, because of course this is their first run with DFM to create the super team. And yeah, it looked a bit rough at the start, but it has actually started to look really good. And against a team like Sengoku, who has just been struggling to really put anything together, I don't know if Sengoku are going to be more than a hurdle to stop the likes of DFM.
Yeah, it could be a trap game though. Like, and that's the thing I kind of want to. Hopefully, DFM can continue to stay honest, because people might be coming into this with still those question marks about what they saw just a couple weeks ago back at the start of the summer split. You can't really be comfortable against these types of games. Like, you still have to go out there and kind of reassert yourself as why you are that dominant team that people expect you to be. So I'm really hoping they don't ease up. But even when you take a look at some of the comparisons, like what we're seeing on screen right now, the big one, of course, being that goal difference at 15 minutes. If you are consistently putting yourself, over 500 over your opponent, who at that same token on NT's side, below that 400 mark, it's everything is shaping up to be that perfect storm of disaster.
But is it really fair to compare that? Remember that Evie is a top laner and NT is a support who gets, the scraps off the dinner table in the most equivalent there.
But so it was the different. I think that graphic was difference in comparison of lane. So it'd be NT is 400 gold down from the other support. I don't think it's actually comparing both of those, because if NT is only
that's bullying.
Well, yeah, but hey, if there's a support if your support is only 400 gold below your enemy top laner, that's actually really good. Then things are absolutely going your way in that situation. But no, I think it's a case of Enti is usually 400 gold down against the opponent's support, but it's Evi's stat that you really want to see right there. 628 gold up at that 15-minute mark. That's a pretty good average. That's an entire component, essentially, and that leads to good things in the future.
Yeah, but I find it quite interesting is look at the DPM 7th out of top laners.
Not as important as that second in kill participation.
Okay, yeah, the second in kill participation is quite nice up in there. I'm still hoping to see out of Enti and Gango though in the bottom lane for Sengoku. I think that is where Sengoku has the best chance because we know that Gango loves to play aggressive champions. Hell, the Draven, I'd argue, is their signature. And so I really hope that they can find a way to sort of, I'm not going to say smack around Yutapong and Gang, but I feel like the big party is in the bottom lane where Sengoku's bot lane is just going to have to step up. They're going to have to do well because in the middle lane, I wouldn't exactly call, Ramune versing up against Arya exactly a fair fight.
Well, yeah, and it leads into that sort of second thing that we're hoping to see, because we know Ramune actually can go for some of those aggressive picks, like does play LeBlanc, which is kind of becoming more and more of a flavorful pick, but I'm not necessarily going to like it in that matchup today. I am hoping Ramune can go for someone who can push, but also has stability in that mid lane to allow the bot lane to be aggressive, because 100% agreement. If they are able to keep Gang from roaming and having to stay on Yutapon throughout that early and mid game, that's going to be the best chance for this Sengoku side, like really to get back into this matchup and be competitive. But at that same time, they can't allow Arya to be able to roam down and just farm an over-aggressive bot side. So it's going to be up to Ramune in a lot of ways to keep the mid lane stable. And it's why I'm hoping Crash is actually going to be spending more time in the mid instead of the bot to get the bot ahead.
And with that, you've got to remember, and I want to quickly drag us back to that middle lane, though Crash is important, is the pick ban, I think, decides that. Because right now we're seeing LeBlanc is obviously on the massive rise. The answer to LeBlanc is obviously the Lissandra right now, which we know is quite popular. You could always, I always will say this, if you see a LeBlanc, Morgana is always on the table. And a sort of real stable mid laner, I think, is still Orianna. I think, yes, it's a bit of a rough matchup into LeBlanc, but if you're good enough on the champion, you should be able to neutralize the kill threat, neutralize the lane push, and keep Arya either locked in lane or punish them when they go for the likes of a roam. So the middle lane should be quite interesting. I think, and again, if I'm not looking at bot lane, I personally think the mid lane is where the excitement's going to happen. Because, yes, Crash will be important, and again, I do hope he visits the mid lane, but junglers have been a bit all over the place, and I'm not sure Crash will be able to match. Because every game that we have seen Steel on Shaco, he has ganked mid lane about the 3-minute mark. Now, if we know this formal, you'd hope that Crash knows this as well and can set up some form of trap, right?
Yeah, you would hope. That is not very good posture. That is very, very scary posture from Yutapon right there. Oh, he's just getting ready for a nap. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
He's like, who are we versing? Sengoku? I'll take a nap. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Do you think they're relaxed coming into this one? Do you think DFN is feeling, confident, relaxed, in control? Because
has he got legs? Where's his torso? You have a torso, mate. Where is it?
I also like how the keyboard is pushed as far up the desk as possible as well. This is someone who wants to get as physically horizontal as possible. Right? Just throw the back of the chair back, buddy. Have a quick snooze. I do believe he might be in a pause or something at the moment because we kind of are taking our time here.
This is the posture you take right before you go to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor's like, dude, what are you doing? You're like, oh. And then you realize this is how you sit. You're like, that explains a lot.
And then I sort of take note of my surroundings and I recognize, hold on, sometimes I kind of fall myself slouched like that. And I actually do own that exact same keyboard. And all of a sudden, I have become the jungle. I have become Yutapon. Either way, though, we are into our picks and pans. And straight away, Lulu is gone. Callista, Akali. Not really the sort of lanes and picks and pans that we thought would be focused right off the bat.
Yeah, the Akali doesn't really surprise me in a way, but I'm still surprised they're not looking to prioritize a LeBlanc ban The Na, thank God. I cannot stress how much I dislike seeing the Na in the LJL. It is such a crutch pick. It's the go-to pick. I want to see you guys picking something different, so I do love the ban. And the other one I think is worth noting, the Nocturne has a over 90% pick ban rate. If I'm recalling it correctly, it's like 92 or 93% pick ban rate on the Nocturne. So surprise, surprise, it's going to get taken away. But the Shaco has been let through. Now, DFM in their first game tonight simply locked in for themselves. Against Sengoku, while I don't like it as a principle, I don't see a reason why DFM don't just do it again.
You're giving us the thumbs up. They're in agreement. I think we're going to be seeing the Shaco. That's clearly what that one means right there. It is Evie going to be talking in the Renekton. And the other thing of note for DFM's picks phase is that I've been finding very bizarre is they've been picking in order, it feels like, every single game. And it looks like they could be doing it once again. There's the Shaco hover. Surely they don't do it 3 times in a row. Surely they go something a bit more conventional. I, of course, doubt it. I actually 100% expect to see this Shaco locked in, because why not? The LeBlanc is still up as well. Yep. Let's go 3 games in a row. Shaco, yep. LeBlanc, clones everywhere. I love it so much when I can't tell who is real and who is fake, because there's 7 champions on the DFM side.
Exactly, and all that Detention FocusMe need to do is tell Udapon, look, we know you're an AD carry player, but if you look in the Nico, we can have 9 champions on the Rift with her Deception, her W. So there's always that to keep in mind. I don't think if Udapon locks it in, I swear. Oh, wait,
I can see Gang doing it. I can see.
Actually, I can see Gang doing it. Yeah, the Galio, that is not the standard response into the LeBlanc here. So a little bit odd. It still does the fundamental job. It's a denial and a safe lane, but the LeBlanc can harass down the Galio that much easier now. So I'm a little worried to see that particular champion locked in, but we did talk about Arya's potential to roam around the map and make plays. Well, Galio is the perfect champion to do that, because yes, you can go for the roam. The Galio needs to go for half a roam before he punches down on the ground and punches you in the face with that ultimate. So
exactly,
it can work.
No, exactly, and it's going to be a safer sort of option as opposed to the Twisted Fate, which would be another one if you're going to be looking to react by following these roams. I kind of was expecting SG to be hopefully more trying to actually control the lane a bit more and just punish the LeBlanc if they decide to roam by applying tower pressure, which is why I was kind of hoping we would have seen that Lissandra get locked in. But the Galio works as well, and it tells me that SG are going to be looking for fights, and I want to go back to the jungle lock-ins as well. That Jin Xiao has a fast clear, and it might not be as fast necessarily as a Shaco, who has one of the fast early clears in the game, but is still quite up there and should be able to sort of keep up in terms of tempo. SG is not going to roll over in this game. Like, they're setting themselves up saying, if DFM want to try and steamroll us, well, we're going to push back. We're going to spike that road. Unfortunately, traditionally, steamrollers are giant cement rollers, so when you spike the road, it just kind of crushes the spikes. But at least they're trying something proactive.
And I love that. I would have loved to have seen the Draven for Gango when you're rocking his kind of aggro composition, basically trying to win by 20 minutes, right? Unfortunately, with the Draven taken off the table here, at least they will save the AD carry slot for the last. But again, there is nothing stopping DFM looking to their composition last game and saying, well, Kai'Sa did quite well last game. There's nothing stopping us from locking it in this time as well. Udapon maybe has other ideas looking at the Varus.
I think Varus is a sort of a strong pick in this one as well. Just because you have that Renekton in the top lane, I do think the Varus can synergize quite well. You do have an established front line where you can get those hits through, so it will be the Varus locked in, and all we wait now is for the support. I highly doubt it will be the Shyvana, but we've seen crazier things out there.
Shaco support again. There was the era of Shaco support. Now, it's not going to happen, and this is just gang having some fun, but remember that Shaco support was a thing for a while. Is it going to get flexing competitive? No way in hell. But do we want it to be flexing competitive? That is the real question. Instead, we're just going to get an angry piece of beef in the bottom lane.
I am kind of wondering where the Shyvana is referencing right now, because I feel like that's a nod to something. You only hover Shyvana if you're trying to reference something, and I highly doubt it's the Legends of Runeterra Dragons deck. So Very curious where that one has gone. Ezreal's going to be hovered. Probably going to be... Nope, it's going to be the Kai'Sa instead. I do like this pickup a little better. If SG is going to try and win through that bot lane, why not get as aggressive as possible? So Leona Kai'Sa in that bot lane, they're going to be trying to jump on Utapon as much as possible. Hopefully catch him napping. He seemed on the verge before. Maybe with this duo, they can get that bot lane snowballing.
Yeah, but I think the unexpected, the hidden dagger that Sengoku has armed themselves with is actually in the top lane. Because in my experience, having watched Renekton into Gwen, Gwen actually does well in that matchup there. She can actually bully out the Renekton, and even at level 6, Renekton actually can really struggle to put the Gwen down through all her healing, ironic considering it's a Renekton. So I'm actually really hopeful that Paz in the top lane will be a point of pressure that we didn't see coming with the matchup that Sengoku has drafted themselves here. But there's the obvious caveat to that. Shaco.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let Shaco gank you.
Don't let Shaco play League of Legends. Ban the Shaco, please. I know that sounds crazy in any other region, against any other jungler in this region. Saying ban the Shaco sounds absolutely insane, but this is 3 games in a row now. We've seen Steel steal this pick away, and to a lot of success in the past. That Shaco LeBlanc mid lane kill pressure, even against a Galio, is nothing to scoff at. So eyes will be focused on the mid, top, and the bot. Every lane matchup is about as exciting as one would expect. Getting ready to jump on the riff right now. A last look at these teams. It's going to be an interesting game for sure, but I have to admit, I'm not as disappointed in the SG draft as I have been with some of their picks and bans in the past.
Yeah, their draft is pretty well-rounded. The only thing I think they're really lacking is a solid front line. Now, yes, you can look at their support and say, well, what do you mean they haven't got a solid front line? But the Leona is good at picking the fight or guarding against the engage. She can't really buy a lot of space once all her cooldowns are burned, because at that point she's not a damage threat. So, oh, I love this. They are stopping, because Steel has started the same time every single game. He starts on the Raptors into red buff. Now Sengoku is saying, look, buddy, if you want to play your Shaco, you're going to have to at least have a different start, because they are staying around to make sure that there are no early game boxes. Steel has to start on the top side of the map now.
Yeah, that you would think that would be the case. And yeah, you wait for that minute to pass so the boxes start to get laid down. As you can see, one has been placed in the wolf camp. And now Steel's got to commit to a slightly off-balance jungle clear. It'll be interesting to see how this plays off. I do like this proactive play from SG. Throw off the jungler that excels at throwing others off balance. Good start for sure. But what can they do with this knowledge? How are they now going to play around it? Because step 1's complete. Curious to see where it goes from here.
So this pathing is going to be really annoying for Steel, because now Steel has to make the decision. Well, typically he goes via the mid lane, because the start is really no different to what we've seen already. We know Steel can do, juggle 2 camps at once, and there we go, surprise, surprise. Yep. But now the pathing for Steel is going to be interesting. Ideally, he'd look top or mid lane. Now he can again do his drive-by gank in the mid lane without too many issues. But oh, hold on a second, what's going on bot lane?
Oh, it's your generic level 1 scrap between 2 engaged supports, or 2 supports that want to be engaging, I suppose. Take a look at some runes and masteries, though. Anything striking you as odd? Because this looks pretty standard to me.
Yeah, everything's kind of stock standard. Nothing really speaks out to me at least.
No more minion deatomizers, which have been making a strange reoccurrence in games earlier today. But no, we're
Steel. Yeah, so remember I mentioned this before, Steel needs to get Eddie ahead, because this is a good matchup for the Gwen. So if they can make this gank work and get a first blood out of this.
Oh, it's looking pretty good at the moment. Paz has opted not to take flash, and with that, no escape from the first blood, Steel is able to secure it.
Exactly. And what is really, really good from DFM is they identified this is a matchup that is going in Paz's favor. So how do you deal with that? Easy. For early Shaco gank, get the first blood onto Steel. Now, does that solve the problem with the lane? Absolutely not. Will that mean that Paz is going to be paranoid for the next little bit of the game? Absolutely yes.
The interesting thing about that, though, is I'm actually surprised that SG fell for it, because it was their intention to put that Shaco on the top half of the map when they went for that bot side invade to start the game. And the end result is I'm kind of surprised Paz actually let themselves get caught out, especially when you're going for the aggressive runes with the teleport ignite, no flash taken. I really feel like Paz should have seen that one coming.
In a way, but what you have to remember is that against playing against a Shaco, you've got to think about tendencies. Every single game we've seen this Shaco, it's ganked mid lane at about maybe 20 seconds after when the gank came through top side. So Paz was just going on the assumption that Steel was going to play like Steel has always played, and instead Steel changes it up and throws Paz completely off and gets that first blood. So mind games are successful here for the Clown.
I just wonder how much you rely on tendencies, I suppose, when your goal in this game was to break up the tendencies, and then you get surprised when the tendencies get broken up. Just food for thought in my eyes. However, it has happened at this stage. DFM gets an early jungle advantage, and we know what Steel can do when Steel starts to get snowballing on the Shaco. And now is when I expect to see that mid-pressure start to come through. Steel kind of feeling that same sort of vibe. Already has gotten that bot side Scuttle Crab making their way up into that top side jungle. They will eventually run into Crash potentially, or will at least spot them on the ward, having a look towards that mid lane, and it's going to go in. You've got Gang right behind as well. Nice taunt from Remue, though, and it does mean the Galio will stay safe.
Yeah, Remune was able to get up there, partly because they have really good read, and also there was no box available for Steel. He dropped it in the bottom side jungle, so I don't feel like DFM were actually looking for anything in that situation, as Remune's got to be careful now. The issue with this matchup is, yes, you can play some more global pressure, but LeBlanc is able to just abuse you from laning phase start to about 25 minutes into the game, because you have no realistic way to fight back against her. Your Winds of War are good, but they're not that good. You have no ranged attack, and if at any point you want to trade, you have to go all in. And Shaco is so much harder to successfully ward against, as Paz, thank you very much, Paz, 40 unique picks. But Shaco is so hard to successfully ward against that you can't ever afford to go in. So Remune has to spend this entire laning phase under the impression that he's being ganked at all times.
You know, if there's ever one reason why to play top lane, having the largest champion pool available to you in the game would be that reason why. And I'm glad to see players like Paz actually taking advantage of that, with 40 unique picks throughout their career. So you know what? I will applaud that. Hats off to you, Paz. Congratulations. Now, if it's 40 unique champion wins, I think that would be the really cool stat to have, because I don't think many pro players can say, yeah, I've won professional games on 40 champions. But something that I like to see even more right now is a team prioritizing early dragons. It's going to be picked up by SG, and I've been waiting so long to see this happen, it feels like.
You and I have seen so many LJL games ignore the dragon in preference of topside control and that first Rift Herald. Finally, Sengoku realized, hey, there's an objective on the bottom half of the map. Maybe we should prioritize it a little bit. So Sengoku will secure that at 6 minutes. It is the Mountain Dragon, first of all. And that means that with the Cloud coming in second, we actually get Formal some really, really important dragons. The Infernal Dragon for obvious reasons, and the Ocean Dragon as well. So very, very interesting to see now that that has been presented itself to both of these teams. Will this mean that DFM is going to put some more priority onto the dragons? I really hope they do, because I feel like it's just kind of neglectful to look at those objectives and think to themselves, nah, we don't need that.
I have to agree, and I hope this is a positive side for SG moving forward. Granted, they were able to get that dragon because of their tracking, which has been quite good actually onto Steel. Thus far, after Steel made that pressure in the mid lane, they sort of took stock of the situation and realized, hold up, we can grab this dragon for free. And I am critical of some of these other teams. In fact, DFM, in particular, last week against the Hawks, I was quite critical of the fact that they had a free dragon available for them that they never wound up taking until like a solid 4 or 5 minutes later. So SG, in a couple ways in this matchup, has already proven to be proactive, and this is a good sign for this team moving forward. Still very much in this game, still in these early days, as we continue to watch sort of farming it take place right now. Eventually, though, it feels like SG is going to have to start being, you know, proactive in a bit more violent ways as well.
Yeah, and I think the way they can look for that is the bottom lane. Udapon has been left alone down there for quite a while, as Ebby looking aggressive top lane, but Udapon has been left alone on the bot side for a solid while now, with Gang going for a very roam-heavy Alistar with those early boots of mobility. And with the likes of Leona, I feel like that is kind of just saying, hey, you can gank, you can basically go all in, you can dive a Varus who has no mobility at will, but we're having a fight because Shelly's fighting for a blue buff. She just wants to get that buff, man. Come on.
Yeah, dude. Have you seen Shelly with blue buff before? I haven't, but I've heard rumors, and they are terrifying, terrifying rumors out there. I mean,
What would the blue buff even give Shelly? Like
Cooldown
less
reduction
more
on the charge.
on that swing thing she does as well.
Yeah, the charge, the swing, just good stuff all around us. Oh, Ramune gets jumped upon right there. Not a lot of poke coming yet through Arya as SG. Now they're looking to get their second neutral objective already crashing into that Rift Herald, but over the wall comes Arya looking perhaps for a way into that back line. All 5 members of Sengoku are around, and here's the engagement. Dang, it's a knock-up, but there's no follow-up, and it just leads to a support throwing themselves away for nothing. Steel now is going to try and drop that clone right in the middle of the SG side, and it does get paths all out of sorts. Heroic entrance doesn't connect onto anyone as Evie arrives to the scene full health and hungry for blood. Going to scare SG back to their own jungle as Arya continues that chase. A bit more poke onto Envy as we hit our first pause of the game.
Oh my lord, gang, that was so sexy coming in. I think that was a 4 or 5 man knockup from the Alistar there. And it's heartbreaking because Alistar isn't level 6 because of all the roaming, so there is no unbreakable will. There is nothing to say that Alistar being shipped off as a happy meal for Sengoku to gobble up. But the problem was then, after they burnt so much on the Alistar, they realized, hey, we have no cooldowns. Kai'Sa doesn't actually have that much damage output. Our Xin Zhao is being chunked, and we now have to continue the team fight. Crap.
Yeah, it was, you know what, but they were able to turn it around. So credit where credit is due with that one. Normally when a player kind of throws themselves away like that, everything seems to fall apart immediately, but the team was eventually able to sort of fight their way back into the river and then sort of chase into the jungle. However, I mean, it was a 5-man knockup. Like, you cannot ask for a much better engage than that out of gang. And it's a reason why when we sort of looking at DFM, it's why each game we're seeing more and more signs of them getting closer to that peak. With the return of gang being the first one. And now, yes! Now we get fully reclined. All right, that's what we've been waiting to see. And, oh, team does not approve.
Team is like, there we go.
Now is not the time for naps. Now is the time for focus. I believe that is Steel saying that to Evie, and I mean,
poor Evie, man. He just wants to relax, have a little bit of fun. And Steel's like, no. I'm playing the Shaco. I'm the only one here who's allowed to enjoy themselves playing League of Legends. Like, come on.
I'm getting a little bit worried because first it was Unipon, and now it's Evie. Like, someone get DFN some caffeine. Please get these players some coffee. Like, I know perhaps this is like, one of the best teams versus one of the worst teams, but you can't be falling asleep at the job. I mean, you can see some energy drinks over there. SG, they're energized up. They're ready to go.
Yeah, they're looking focused here. I mean, when you got for SG, this game is really important, right? Like, for them, this is a game that can kind of claw them back in terms of standings and just respect. If they can take down DFM in this game, like, that is going to be massive for them, not just standing wise, but like then this team can be looked at and considered a threat. But for DFM, very different approach. They're looking at this game saying, okay, we just need to win this game and move on to our next game later tonight. So DFM probably with a bit of a different mental. Oh no, DFM's already played. Sorry, I was thinking of Sengoku. I'm
Sengoku. Yeah, sorry. That's okay.
I'm gonna lie down in my chair at this point. Can I recline my chair? Is that allowed?
True. Also, was that NT at the end right there sitting with 3 drinks around him?
I must have missed that.
Yeah, it looked like he had 3. I'm not sure if that was NT or if it was Paz. They were at the end. I think it was NT just chilling with 3 drinks and keeping those hands warm as well. Everyone just ready to get back into this game. Am I alone and just always fascinated by player antics during these pauses? Like, I know for a lot of people... It's just fun. No, I'm a little.
I think the all-time favorite thing I've seen, like between pauses, is does anyone remember Worlds where then Scarin had their issue with plugging in their keyboard?
Yes.
And they had to like plug it in 4 separate times. Like that was that's one of my favorite player antics I've ever seen. As we're hoping, I don't know what the pause is for. Hopefully we will be getting back into it shortly, but the pause makes me worried a little bit more. I worry there might have been like a bug or something that was going on.
Yeah, I wonder how serious this one's going to be. I mean, I'm worried too about a lot of things right now. I mean, the pause, the state of this game for the side of SG after losing that fight. Udapon's back in 20 years if his posture continues to remain as terrible as we've seen thus far. These are things that are pressing concerns in my mind. Hopefully, we will be getting back into this one quite soon. I think the players are kind of, I mean, they're still in a good state for the most part. Udapon's kind of there. I remember, slightly off topic, because I don't know if it's still the case now, but I remember back in the olden days, like players during these pauses would just straight up alt tab and start like browsing the internet. Not necessarily in the LJL, but like in the NA or the lives. I'm just kind of curious if that's the case. Because, oh, it looks like we're going back to us. This is not normally a promising sign when it comes back to the casters. I'm getting more and more nervous as time keeps ticking away.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that something. I didn't see anything odd during that team fight, but maybe something happened there where a bug. I'm guessing. My best guess is some sort of bug was in that fight. Again, we won't really know until we do find out if we. Because I should assume the LJL. Oh my god. I would assume that the LJL has access to the chrono break and such. So
Yes.
Worst comes to it, we go back before the fight, and Gang still gets a 5-man knockup, because I'm going to be heartbroken if we don't get to see that again, because the setup was so good for DFM, even if the follow-up took its sweet time to arrive.
Yeah, I do agree. I'm hoping things get to say, fingers crossed, we'll be able to rock in this one. But if not, continuing what I was trying to get at before, can always alt-tab and start playing Minecraft, all right? I've seen that before. I've seen that happening in lane before with people playing, so we'll see what happens here. Yeah, it was high school level. It was high school level, but yeah, there was a player on one of the teams who, like, every time they would back, they would just play like 10 seconds of Minecraft while running back up into lane. Gotta get those blocks, I suppose. As we wait to see what's happening. Casters still having a good time, although you can't see them. That's for our eyes only. I have to admit, I'm pleasantly surprised to say that our backdrops right now are, a little bit better than what the poor LJL official casters have to deal with. It looks like they've kind of, I know you can't see it, but it really looks like they just didn't bother setting up the set whatsoever and just filmed them wherever they could.
I feel like they're on like the gantry above the players, right? Like, look, like it's
yeah.
Quite
Oh, it probably is. Yeah. I think that's exactly where it's like. They're up in the scaffolding. They're ready to drop down like Sting back during the WWE WWF times. Yeah, you can see right there. Just a quick look. Oh, they're ready to go. That'd be fantastic. I would love to cast above the stage and above everyone.
It would be so sorry. All you need is like one strong gust of wind. The whole thing rocks during a team fight. You just fall over.
And now I don't want to ever do it. Thank you for crushing my dream.
What else am I meant to do, Formal? It's kind of my job here, isn't it?
That is very true. Waiting to get back in this fun game. I mean, yeah, I think we might be cursed at this stage. This is the second long. I mean, granted, last time the long pauses, it was the casters before us, but I think it's just what happens.
Well, we've got a little bit of time, so I think let's. I feel like because we're both Aussie, I feel like we can get away with a little bit of shenanigans. So I don't know if they're available. Can we take a quick look and bring up the predictions for today? Because there were some interesting things that were going on with the predictions today. Now, I know the copy here does not have your predictions in here.
Yeah, actually, can I make a quick request then? If our lovely producer can bring up the truth in the real predictions right now. Because I think it's missing a little bit of something, because these are all great predictions. I mean, in particular, actually, I really, really do like that, that second one from the right. I think that's a good lot of predictions, but I'm looking at yours right now, and you're 1 for 1. That's not bad.
Yeah, obviously I had the biggest of big brains with game number 2 tonight of the Hawks versus V3. But I feel like the most interesting. Okay, so apparently the updated one is available, so we can see the truth. So Formal,
excellent.
Now, so obviously Formal. There are a few questions.
That's not me. No, that's not me. That's the truth. Those are not my predictions. That's the truth.
Okay, so the truth, I do have to ask underneath on our game number 1 here. Maybe it's just me, but it looks very much like there's something under the DFM logo. Would you like to explain?
Yeah, like when they were going to crush their opponents so hard that they just have to be placed on top of them. It's pretty straightforward. And game number
And
2, clearly the Truth was saying Corporal was going to carry, because the Truth does have an oceanic bias as well, fun fact. Did say that Corporal was just going to carry over V3, which, hey, it's pretty much what happened. Corporal played an amazing game on that recon.
he did. I'm just again. I'm just under the under Corporal. I'm seeing a little bit of orange. What's going on there, buddy? Would you like to
Corporal's
explain?
favorite color is orange.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's take a look at the rest of the.
I'm surprised you didn't know that. As the resident Hawks fanboy, you weren't aware that Corporal's favorite color was orange, and always wants his picture above a orange backdrop, or if not possible, at least tinges of orange that may or may not be a part of the V3 logo.
Well, so far, so that means the Truth is it must be 2-0, for it is the Truth.
Must be 2-0, for it is the truth.
It's the truth. So obviously, game number 3, which is obviously the game that we are currently in our break for, DFM versus Sengoku. It's very clear consensus on who they think is going to win this, because DFM is just looking much better, and Sengoku has fallen a little bit far from grace, I think it's fair to say. Then game 4, I don't know if Melvin is also around. I would love to be able to pick his brain about the Sengoku lock-in against the Hawks, because I know he's a Sengoku fan, but I question, is that all of it?
Yeah, I'm curious on that one as well. I mean, we'll have to get into that when we do. As it stands, it looks like we're actually back to the game. So, huzzah, no remake. We are going back to Summoner's Rift, and it does look as if that last team fight did stick. I believe it did very much stick. Gang does have a death, unfortunately, but it also means that 5-man knockup very much is now LJL canon.
Excellent. And that will also be the rip trail secured by Steel, who has to now flee for it, as Crash is hungry for the Shaco, but I don't feel like he's got the ability to engage, or at least get the Scuttle Crab for their issues. Coming in as we've just hit the 10-minute mark, and the game is relatively... Steel, be careful, buddy.
Oh, Crash could actually look for this. Steel sticking around. That would have been... It was stolen! Oh, that hurts me in my soul.
That is an aggressive level of disrespect that you drop the box just to be able to smite it away from Crash. At least Crash got the Scuttle Crab. There is at least that going for them, but that's still a really rough situation for the Sengoku jungle. You spend a decent amount of resources going for the invade, only to get nothing really out of it. It's a bit of a pain in the ass.
I mean, what they do get, though, is information, which, when against a Shaco, is arguably the most important thing you can have. They will be aware that Steel is going to be probably on the bot side of the map at about this time, just because of the fact that topside jungle has to be reset. You did catch Steel on very low health, and you can see the response already. More passive positioning coming from that bot lane of Sengoku, as Gang going to take advantage of that passive positioning and start to drop some Dreep wards in. I really like how DFM is sort of playing the map very intelligently. Really, both these teams, actually. A much smoother macro game than I may have necessarily been expecting coming into this one. It's a promising side. That said, the dive's still in play, but no,
boy.
The corrupting arrow didn't hit, and that probably is going to dissuade Arya from looking at that dive.
Yeah, just as saying, DFM is looking good. The macro is good, but the micro needs a little bit of love here, as Sengoku charging down here. And now, with no chains of corruption, I actually think that DFM might be forced to concede this objective here, because they got no teleport versus Paz's TP on the ground. Yeah, they're forced to get this dragon up.
Yeah, I mean, unless Steel can get a second steal, not going to be the case, as it's going to be smited away by Crash. And 2 Drakes for Sengoku Gaming, as well as, well, they lost the Herald, so it's 2 for 1 on that neutral objective front. Crash still is able to track Steel as Steel road towards that mid lane. I have to admit, Sengoku, they've got a win condition now, a quite clear one in that Dragon Soul if they're able to find it, as I don't see where it's been announced what that Dragon Soul necessarily is at this stage. I'm having a look here, and it is an ocean? Okay, true.
Yeah, it was an ocean. You can tell because of all the extra pretty little flowers around some.
Yeah, I was about to say, the foliage has seemed to grown to an out-of-control state, so it must be an ocean drake.
Yeah. which I think it's not as good as an Infernal, because obviously everyone loves the Infernal Dragon a little bit more, but it's not a bad dragon necessarily. So Steel is just being super annoying up against Crash, but Crash has the CS advantage, and unlike last game, there is not a massive advantage for Steel, right? He's only gotten that first blood kill and an assist to his name. So it's not like the Shaco started to snowball out of control like we've seen in the past here. And we're seeing something set up, but they've got to be so careful because NT is lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, this as well as Gang, though, from down below, as in comes the engage from Enti, but the re-engage coming from Gang in that back line. The heroic entrance actually does find Steel, and it's Evie who's kind of caught out of position, flash for flash, but the Renekton still goes down to Ramune, as Steel, also in trouble, has to hop over that wall. Granted, this is going to come at the expense of some mid lane pressure. Tower plating going to Arya, who still is that roaming LeBlanc threat. As it stands, though, a nice little pickup for Sengoku.
I must say, I love the ultimate from Ramune. It's so proactive in being like, okay, we're going for this play. I'm going to rotate and help up there. NT wasn't able to be saved, but that's still such a good use of that ultimate, considering 20 CS down, finally able to have a massive impact for their team in the top half of the map here. So this Galio finally getting some impact that we needed to see, because the proactiveness, because DFM, I don't think they realized that NT was here until it was far too late. And at that point, Gang is so slow to the play because he has to get over the wall with the Hex Flash. Finally gets involved, and they focus on NT, and that's when they realize, crap, we can't get out. Like, there's no way Evie gets out. Gang is sort of just stuck vibing with the rest of the team and gets out only because of the ultimate. So DFM not realizing, or not getting proper vision, I should say, before committing to a fight.
Yeah, that said, end result, though, is still a 1-for-1 with mid-pressure kind of going over to Arya, so it's not the end of the world, as this time the Corrupting Chains do connect, and Sengoku perhaps going a little too deep in enemy territory right here. They've already lost Crash, who has realistically only just responded. A piercing arrow does a good damage to Enti, but it's that headbutt pulverize onto the Kaisa, which does a lot of damage right there. Another kill, this one going over to Arya. 2 quick pickups for DFM, and they're not done.
So, I know how I criticized DFM for looking for a fight without vision. I can now criticize Sengoku of the same transgression not 30 seconds later. That is a little... Oh god, Ramune is in trouble.
Oh, Ramune, he'll be fine. Has Flash, is able to get out of that one. But yeah, I have to agree. When you look at the vision, yes, you can see that ward that has been placed just below the mid lane, that river entrance. However, that's not the path that was taken. Oh, wait, no, wait. Yeah.
So Sengoku have to know that they've been spotted, go in over the wall here, but the problem is that they have no idea Steel is there until now, and it's already too late to get out. They get caught by the Chains of Corruption. Steel comes in from the flank. Gang does a beautiful job of just holding them in place with the Alistar, and then the TP flank just to ensure that Gango doesn't get out. And I just realized that was a flash headbutt pulverize from Gang as well. Damn, this man is looking good on the Alistar.
Yeah, just showing, you know, fearless determination with the Alistar combo right there. Headbutt, pulverize, throwing a sprinkle of flash on top, and nowhere for Gango to go. Fortunately for the Kaisa, they were able to save their flash this time around, and, well, they'll get a Scuttle Crab, it appears. So all hope is not lost just yet for Sengoku, but they do find themselves 2K down as we pass that 16-minute mark, and with the Dragons under a minute away, if they're going to want this third Drake, they're going to have to start making their way to that bottom side of the map in a bit of a hurry.
Yeah, they're going to have to fight for it. Now, DFM are in the position where they are more than capable of contesting these objectives. Everyone has access to their mythics. Most of the players have access to their tier 2 ultimates, but the problem is that Abby, up in this top lane, while they do have TP, can't actually do much, because Paz, with the Gwen, with the Riftmaker secured, is going to win the 1v1s from now on. So DFM pretty much has to force global plays and force the TP out of Paz in order to actually be able to contest these kind of objectives, because you cannot utilize what I would argue is your star top laner. You just can't utilize them in this matchup. It's such an unfortunate matchup in this situation.
That said, something that I do like out of DFM at this stage, though, is the fact that they're still able to keep these lane pressures while posturing themselves around that dragon, where Sengoku has just been kind of stuck in their jungle, not really collecting anything for themselves at this stage. So DFM still coming out on top, even with this little bit of a dragon dance. Eventually, Sengoku is probably going to have to be that proactive team, and I'm looking at Enti to be the one who really needs to find that correct engage.
Yeah, but the problem for Enti is, what is that good engage? Because it's not going to be on Ebby, because Ebby's going to TP down later. It's not going to be on Steel or Arya, because they are mobile and deceptive. You're going to have to get access to Unipon, or you're going to have to somehow catch out Gang, and I just don't see that happening as we're seeing Sengoku. I think they really want to contest this.
Yeah, that they do, but already the combo is used to hold Crash up, gets to the pit,
no.
sees the dragon, and now might be in a bit too deep. Yeah, Ramune with the heroic entrance is going to turn this fight right back around for Sengoku Gaming. Front line being held on 2 different points. The damage not following up Sengoku's front line, which means they're not going to secure any kills, but they are going to secure the area around the Ocean Drake, which starts to make its way out of the pit. Arya has a look over the wall, gets a bit of damage onto Crash, who also gets hit with that piercing arrow. To be careful, here comes Steel, stealing away the dragon with Smite. Now crashes into Steel, the two go at it, and it is, I believe that was Steel who came out on top initially before the follow-up damage from the AD carry turned it back around. Now Gango has to rejoin the rest of the team, which was looking to chase down Ebby, but it's Unipon from the flank doing so much damage onto Paz. Arya secures that kill right as Ebby goes back in on Unipon, but back at that river entrance, it's Runaway trying to clog it up, but instead gets clogged down the toilet. Ebby gets to the back line, and it is a near ace for the side of Destination FocusMe.
Oh, what a messy fight coming out between these two teams here. I think the only saving grace here for Sengoku is the fact that they were able to secure themselves a dragon. Crash got close to Steel got close to that, but was not able to take it away. So that is 3 dragons for Sengoku. But look at how slow. So Sengoku make the first mistake here. They start charging in, they have to here. Crash gets engaged on the heroic entrance at a horrible time. You need to wait till after Crash engages. So Ramune is like, okay, pile-in. Now it's a complete pile-on, which is fantastic. But Sengoku like, okay, this is fine for us. Arya's forced to back away. Ebby wasn't involved in the fight and Steel is low. They wait it out because they've lost their support. They decide to go in from 3 different directions. Unipon on the one side, Steel inside, but Evie gets hard engaged on here as that Unipon. That was disgusting.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the fight here, Evie just doesn't die. Arya is never locked down, and Paz and Ramune overstay their welcome, overchase, and then I don't know what Sengoku's doing here at this point. Enti's Zenith play just gets the rest of his team killed. Like, I understand the enthusiasm, but you need to acknowledge it. You, as a team that is down in tempo, down in gold, got the objective. You just need to get out at that point. But instead, they overstayed their welcome and thought they were a bit too big for their breaches.
You know what that's called? That's called proper support play, Midnight. That is how you play Leona.
It's
called helping. It's called helping. Enti was just trying to help with that Zenith Blade, and it kind of exploded in their face, but absolutely, that fight was chaotic. And typically in those chaotic situations, you know, the team with more veteran leadership, more experience, and oftentimes more confident is the one that comes out on top. So it should be no surprise that DFM was able to sort of make the better of that chaos. The only thing that they really missed out on was that dragon, which did go to Sengoku Gaming. So SG, 1 Drake away.
Oh my!
What? Are they even going to have a chance to get to it as Ramue gets kind of jumped upon by 4 members of DFM? Is going to try to flash out of this one. Steel is going to send the Shea clone after them. Ignite was dropped on this Galio as well, but will be able to walk away at the cost of that tier 2 tower. DFM really trying to put down the gas pedal right now and accelerate this game.
I love how unnecessarily aggressive that was. There was no need for DFM to commit that many resources, the Ignite and 2 ultimates, for just a turret. Like, you could have just sieged that, you should have been fine there. But I love that DFM is willing to go for those sort of plays there. I mean, you've got the ability to juggle the aggro perfectly because Steel exists as the Shaco, and Alistair has no issues tanking up a damn turret. So I love the aggression, and it means that DFM is more than aware what position they're in this game. Sure, it hasn't been as quick as maybe they were hoping for. They're only 6,000 gold ahead at 20 minutes, which ideally would you be a bit more if you were really trying to show that you're straight up the better team. But the gameplay, for the most part, has been relatively clean. And I
6K gold seems like a lot to me. I'm just going to put that out there. maybe my games just aren't very strong, but when I have a 6K gold lead, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Okay, I see your point, though. I mean, if you were hoping for, that 20-minute stomp, this game has not been that. SG has stayed in it. They've been able to get 3 out of 3 Drakes thus far. They might not have gotten, the Rift Heralds, but that's okay for them, and they still have that out. However, Detention FocusMe are very much in control at this stage of the game, and the fact that they're willing to commit that much, I feel, for dives on that bot side of the map, it is kind of telling me that they understand that they still want to accelerate and they still want to win as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, and again, it's not that the 6,000k gold is a bad advantage, but you would hope. I'm seeing it from the point of DFM should have no issues just cleaning up Sengoku, yet Sengoku has been given 3 dragons. Like, this is a team that we are hoping to see so much out of, and the fact that a 1-in-5 team actually has the threat of a sole win condition is a little bit alarming to see if you're a Detention FocusMe fan. Again, it's not a bad situation, but you'd hope for a cleaner game, as Dragon has spawned and DFM don't look interested.
Udapon doesn't look interested right now.
The rest of his... Wait, are they sending Ebby to go take the dragon while the rest of them posture around Baron? Or what's going on? DFM... A little bit weird positioning, but finally do actually go for the dragon. I don't know.
Ebby looks as confused. Everyone's kind of looking at us like, all right, cool, free Drake. We'll take that. Yeah. All right. Well, DFM going to be quite happy with that little pickup right there. Kind of stopped the 4 Dragon Soul. I was right about to start complimenting Sengoku's macro this game, in sort of contrast, because I know you've been like Destination FocusMe have been letting them stay in this, but a lot of that has come from the team decision making we've been seeing from Sengoku in terms of how they've been playing the map. But that one they had no interest whatsoever in sort of contesting for that Ocean Soul at this stage of the game.
I think, honestly, that it's quite a smart decision. You know you're behind. You know that if you pick this team fight, you're just probably not going to be able to win it. So instead of charging headfirst into a fight that you're pretty sure you can't win, because you've got no established vision control on the bottom half of the map, that you have to just charge in blind, which is never a good idea. What does Sengoku lose by giving up the dragon? Well, their win condition is delayed by 5 minutes. That's the only real thing they're losing in this situation. It's not that DFM gained something massive, because a mid to late game Ocean Dragon, it's nice, but it's not game changing. It's nothing like an Infernal Dragon. So it's not the end of the world to give that up, wait a couple minutes, get some more farm on your key members, get Gango up to 3 items, allow Crash to get his 2nd item, for example. Like, these are not bad things. Zarya is just, oh my god, Arya, no.
My goodness. Yeah, Crash needs to be a little bit careful right here. Obviously, you get a pick on the Crash in that situation. That's a Baron going over to Detention FocusMe, but you're absolutely correct. You kind of have to ask yourself, well, what do we gain by waiting 5 minutes? And it's legitimate damage threats on our team at this stage, because Gango needs that 3rd item, is building their way towards it, and that's where I do believe we will be seeing Sengoku Gaming actually contest more for these neutral objectives.
Yeah, because there's no need to charge into a fight that you're 60% certain you're going to lose. That's fool's maths. The only time you do that is if it's an Elder Dragon. And the only way an Elder Dragon spawns is if Sengoku secure Dragon number 4 uncontested, which Detention FocusMe is never going to let happen.
And I just want to point out right now that if anyone thinks that Midnight is a pessimist, he gave Sengoku Gaming a 40% chance to win a straight-up 5v5 at this stage of the game. So that seems pretty optimistic to me. That said, Sengoku might be trying to live by those odds as a death bush is getting formed, and that's the entirety of the team on that bot side. And now they're going in straight after Gang, and unable to really pile on him. It's Steel sort of jamming that front line with the Shea clone. And Paz is able to actually get that kill on the tail end, but here comes the re-engage heroic entrance, coming too little too late to make the save onto Crash. Re-engage from Ebby is going to catch Ramune out of position, has to burn flash immediately, but it's not going to be enough as Arya secures the kill. It's a 2-for-1, and one that sees the fall of the jungler DFM. They could fall back to Dragon, they could fall back to Baron, or they could be looking to reset.
I think they're just resetting this situation. You could force the Dragon, but there is every chance that it's going to fight you for it. So I'm not so sure it's what the fight you're looking for here. I think you just go for the reset. But that team fight was the most heartbreaking thing. Watch Gango in this fight here. They're setting up an ambush after Ramune gets poked down a little bit here. NT's like, all right, let's posture around a little bit. We know there's a box here. But again, keep your eyes on Gango. They are the primary damage dealing threat here for Sengoku, and how they are not allowed to play in this team fight because of Ebby. So the fight starts in, piling out, Ari's there. Crap, Gengo's got to back up, his red team piles in. Now Ebi's here. He has to go all the way around. There's no... This is a 4v5 at best here for Sengoku. A beautiful Shay clone detonation. Just straight up gets 2 kills. Ramune forced to ult in to try and save Paz there, but it's not going to save them, as they'll go down themselves. But that is the most heartbreaking fight, because again, you need this Kai'Sa with the items that they've got, the Kraken Slayer and the Fenanenter, to be a huge source of damage output for your team, because you've got a Galio in the mid lane, but they're getting zoned out of the fight entirely, and the rest of the team either needs to retreat or needs to have Gengo as part of the initial engage.
Here we take a look at the damage graph, and this is what I wanted to see. And despite, that limited... Oh, that's gold. That's not damage. Okay, so... Yeah, dang. I thought those damage, I was going to be really surprised right there, the fact that Gengo actually led the team in the damage, because it honestly looked like in that situation, Gengo did less damage than Enti did. And now Crash is getting caught out by Arya. That's going to open up the floodgates. Ebi comes charging in. A 3-man knockup from Gang means the death of Gengo as well. And there too goes the damage, which means even more kills for Detention FocusMe. They go ahead, pick up that support as well as Paz. Everyone is falling. Ramue all alone. Arya and Ebi even going golden under the tower to secure this one. Another Alistair combo means a delayed ace. This could actually be the end of the game right now, because they've got a minion wave crashing into that inhibitor.
What a slaughter! DFM finds Sengoku just napping, butcher them, and now we'll just straight up end the game. There is nothing to be done. DFM will close this out. They have 1 dragon to their name, and yet will come out victorious 16-5 at 29 minutes into our game tonight. And my lord, that is... If nothing else, it was a bit of a slower game than you'd have liked, but that final fight there was one of the most brutal things, Formal, I think you and I have ever witnessed together.
Yeah, that was blink and you miss it moment, and for, this team, they're going to be happy with their performance this week. Go through, grab themselves a couple nice wins, and now Utapon and co can go back home, get some rest. I mean, he looks so tired right now. I'm sorry. I just can't,
man.
Yeah, he finally can go and take that nap, and he can sleep well, knowing they got their victory in this matchup. But I still feel when we look at Sengoku, there's a lot of positive things. There has still been improvement in this game than what we've seen in weeks prior so far this split. And with the way how the Hawks are playing and some of those criticisms that we have for their macro, I'm sure we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but I have a little bit reason to possibly be concerned at this stage.
Yeah, what we can do about that, Formal, but we will be going to a quick short break, guys. And when we come back, we will take a bit of another look at the game we did get to just witness. So, guys, don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everybody. Game number 3 of the afternoon, morning, evening, or night, depending where you are in this world. And it was, in some ways, a result we expected, but in a lot of ways, not the way how it played out we were expecting to see. And some people might look at this game on paper and think to themselves, yeah, that looked like, the favorites coming through and sort of steamrolling their opponents. But the reality of that when Midnight, I feel like it was a lot different than what we were sort of expecting coming into it.
Yeah, exactly. You come into this game, you look at just how the teams have been playing, and you would say to yourself, well, Detention FocusMe can sort of just lock in whatever they want. But to their credit, I think they did because Steel got access to his Shaco again. And they sort of just
He gave us
locked
the
in for
thumbs up.
themselves.
I don't know if
Mhm.
you remember, but they gave us the thumbs up to start off that pick and
Yeah,
ban. They're like, yeah, we're getting what we want this game. So I definitely feel they were still happy with their picks.
yeah. And they came into it quite confident, and from the side of DFM, they looked as good as you would have expected them against the likes of Sengoku. They were relatively clean, they had some good highlight plays, and they found just the moment of inattention to clap down onto them and sort of eat them alive. But I do think it's worth saying though that as you introed it with, the game didn't play out the way you would have expected it to play out. And specifically, I think we have to give credit to Sengoku and how they, I'm going to use the word survived via their macro, because it wasn't their micro that got them as late as they
No.
did. Their macro was just really nice considering what they were up against.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the very start of the game where they get Steel off balance on a different sort of jungle path than what we've seen in those past 2 games, forcing Steel to kind of prioritize more on that top side of the map where even with a gank or two, Paz would still have that winning matchup, as opposed to prioritizing the mid lane of the map where they would want to be getting Arya roaming around everywhere. And the end result of a more subdued mid lane was the fact that we actually saw Sengoku get the first 3 dragons. And if you had told me they would be getting the first 3 dragons on what was essentially cooldown, I would be very shocked by it. Granted, that third dragon they picked up, they did have to fight for, and the end result of that one wasn't necessarily what they were looking for. But the fact that, this underdog team was able to get those first 3 Drakes kind of shows that from a macro standpoint, they were going toe to toe, if not above the likes of DFN during those first 16 minutes or so.
And the fact that we saw a team take a dragon before the turret plates had actually fallen off isn't exactly what we've seen standard in LJL. We've seen a lot of teams put a lot of priority on an early Riftchild, getting money off the turret plates, and then at about 16 minutes, give or take, like, oh yeah, the dragon, we should probably do that objective while we're at it. So I love the shift, because instead of saying, okay, we're going to play the same way we know DFM is, like, no, 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 we're changing the script up. We're going to try something else. And yes, it didn't work the way they were hoping, but I appreciate the attempt to say, hey, let's start focusing on dragons a little bit more. I think it's a really good decision, especially in a league where, again, a lot of dragons just seem to get a little bit neglected. So Sengoku had a good idea coming into it, but we have to talk about what sort of hurt them a lot, and that is a particular Alistair player that was driving the Detention FocusMe forwards there. Gang pulled off several just, I don't want to say other than disgusting plays. I mean, we got a 5-man knock-up, a flash knock-up, and I believe the final team fight, he got a 3-man to follow it up as well. Like, it's disgusting what this guy did on this Alistair this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if we have any of those replays so we can talk about that in a little bit more detail. But absolutely, Gang coming in on this Alistair, just hitting a lot of those combos pretty much that exact way that you'd want to see him get. I mean, the 5-man is the dream situation. And it was kind of funny how there wasn't really, I don't even think that like DNG was necessarily expecting that, right? Like they were caught off guard by that 5-man hitting. And that could have been one of the reasons why the pause happened. They were thinking, oh my God, wait, did that just happen? Quick, someone pause the game. We need to clip it. We need to record that just to make sure we have that remembered. And it was a great engage as Gang definitely did well and stepped up. And yeah, I think hopefully we're going to be able to see those replays because I want to watch that one again. I probably should have said something
Yeah,
beforehand, but
probably
I
should
was a
have.
little probably should have prepared a little bit. But us down under when the memes started coming, the brain starts going.
Isn't that standard down here? I mean, we're upside down, so all the blood just doesn't
Mhm.
work the way it's meant to down here. But again, I just
Some
really want to
41.
credit Sengoku. They played a lot better than I mean I was expecting them to. I was expecting DFM just to sort of run over them, and like by 20 minutes the game would have been clearly over. And yes, after 20 minutes, it was a 6,000 gold difference. DFM were in a good position, nowhere a position that you couldn't point to the game and say, hey, one bad team fight, one horribly miscommunicated catch, and DFM could actually start losing whatever bunch they had. So there was still the possibilities of life for them. And for Sengoku, who are facing the Hawks next, I think that game is a game you can actually be relatively happy with because you showed a good performance against one of the stronger teams in your region, and now you're versing a team that is only, instead of like maybe 10 ladder rungs above you, they maybe Hawks are maybe only about 5 to 4. They are easily within ankle grabbing distance where you can just grab them and pull them down. So
And when you look, yeah, and when you look at the biggest strength that we saw from Sengoku in that the macro, yeah, words are hard, but in that macro, that's kind of been the Hawks' one of their largest weaknesses. Granted, that game we saw against V3, it did seem like the Hawks have been working over that past week and have started to clamp down on it. So perhaps that will be that weakness again moving forward. However, I feel like if Sengoku played like they did against DFM, against the way how the Hawks looked last week, I would actually be leaning towards Sengoku as the favorites coming into this next game.
They did look good, but you got to remember, Formal, there is a reason they're 1-6. They have still had a lot of clear weaknesses. Some of their map movements are still just all over the place. And I think the biggest point of criticism for them is team fight coordination. And I think a perfect example of that is, and I know we don't have the replay up yet, is that team fight around the top half of the map where we saw Gango do next to nothing because the Kaiser got zoned out of the fight and was allowed to join the fight at the end when the fight was already dead and gone. So I really need to see out of Sengoku some more coordinated team fights before I'd be willing to put some more stock in this team as a 5-man unit. Because again, the macro looks good, don't get me wrong. But you need more than macro. You need to be able to fight a good team fight. And I personally don't think Sengoku's got it.
And you need to be able to handle, supports who can get some dream engages, which we saw a fair few, that last one from Gang, but we also saw a few even earlier in the afternoon from a certain Oceanic player who goes by the name of Corporal on that Recon earlier today. So it's going to be an interesting one as we take a look. We actually do get some replays, and this is, again, just that start of the game, getting Steel off balance, and it was something that I was really complimentary of for Sengoku Gaming. I thought this was a really good play. The one thing I was a bit negative was, even though you have that ward down there in the top lane, I still feel Paz should have been expecting that early, level 2 play.
Yeah, again, as I mentioned, I think it's just they're playing off the tendency of Steel taking this camp and then going via the middle lane, because that's what Steel has done every other game on Shaco. But in hindsight, he just cheated on a ward? Because I saw him playing around Vision. Oh, I think it's by the time he's seen him, it's far too late. Because poor Paz.
Paz was able to come back from it, I feel. Was able to get there in the end, for sure. I do believe we're going to be throwing it to a break now, if that's all well and good with all of you watching back home, because when we come back, we've got another game for you. It's going to be Sengoku versus the Hawks, and it's going to be a fun one, so stay with us. More of the LJL officially, unofficially official when we come back in an unofficial, officially